Welcome to the Cantina Chatter Podcast.
Turn up your nostalgia.
Hey everyone, and welcome back. I'm Victoria, your host here on the Cantina Chatter Podcast, your resource for Star Wars, new and retro toys, pop culture, and randomness from the 80s and 90s. Hey everybody. I hope you all are having a fantastic holiday season as we head into a brand new year and a brand new decade. In just a few short days, we're going to be catching up on The Mandalorian. It's been a few weeks since we did our last Mandalorian episode, where we covered the first two episodes of the season. In this episode, we'll be catching up once again with television correspondent for Star Wars, Dave, to talk episodes 3, 4, and 5. As you may recall, if you listened to last week's episode, we did a review, me and Dave, of Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker, talking about our first impressions immediately after both seeing the film for the first time. And as always, it's great talking with Dave. He has a great way with words, he's very articulate, and he conveys his thoughts with such clarity, and I love having him on the show. So this is going to be fun. We actually recorded this before the last episode, the Rise of Skywalker episode, so we're getting caught up. In the next one, he'll be coming back and we'll be finishing up our Mandalorian series, talking about episodes 6, 7, and 8. So if you love Mandalorian like we do, you'll be hearing more about it next week as well, as we get into the subsequent episode. But let's not waste any more time. Let's go ahead and bring on Dave and we'll get right into The Mandalorian. Alright, last time we had him on the show, we discussed episodes 1 and 2 of The Mandalorian Season 1. We are now through episode 5, and we wanted to touch back and kind of recap and discuss episodes 3, 4, and 5. So once again, Dave, welcome back to the show.
Hi Victoria, thanks for having me back.
It's been awesome watching this show. You told me you were doing the same thing today. I was rewatching, these most recent episodes and just completely reminded why this show is so freaking epic.
Yeah. I've been watching them over and over again, and it's something I haven't done with other streaming service shows, and I'm having a lot of fun going back and, getting down to sit down and talk about them.
Yeah. It's, it's nice to reflect on them a little bit because each episode so far has been a pretty self-contained, almost like a little movie, it's like a complete story. There hasn't, even though it's a continuous thing, there hasn't really been like a cliffhanger or anything that's, it's been pretty self-contained in each episode. So going back and watching it, you kind of pick up on more of those details and, just see how it all fits together within each episode.
Yeah, I've definitely seen some things that they laid groundwork for in certain episodes. You see payoffs maybe 2 episodes later, and going back and watching it, you're like, I missed that the first time, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it is. So episode 3, title of this episode is
The Sin. It was directed by Deborah Chow, which I believe is the first directing debut for a female director in Star Wars.
Yeah, that's awesome. So episode 3, The Sin. In this episode, we're kind of following up on what happened in the previous episode. So we know that Mandalorian already has the child or the asset in tow. He's kind of gone on this little adventure of trying to get him safely back to collect his bounty. And he takes him back to, what is this, like a little secret base, or what would we call this? Yeah, back
to planet Navarro, it's called, and I guess it's where the guild, the Bounty Hunters Guild, is operating out of now, from Grief Karga.
Yeah, so He brings him back. I think as an audience member, you're kind of thinking there's no way he's going to drop the child off, but he actually does it.
Yeah. I didn't know where we left off in episode 2. I'm thinking, what's he going to do? And of course, he takes him right back, drops him off with the stormtroopers back to the client and Dr. Pershing, and gets his reward, his payment in the Imperial Beskar. And it's funny to see it's in the ice cream container that we see in Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, that was a great touch. I mean, one of those things that only really hardcore Star Wars fans are going to know about, but just the fact that it was in there, we actually got to see, how it works was pretty awesome.
Yeah, it gives that neat little thing use, in the Star Wars world. I mean, we all know it's an ice cream maker, but now we know what it's for in universe.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So he collects his money, but you can tell right away he's got reservations. He's kind of asking, so what's going to happen with the child?
Yeah.
And, he's basically told, why are you even asking? That's kind of out of character. And so he goes about his day. He goes back to the Mandalorian base and has new armor made for him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he goes back. He takes the money. He asks for new armor to be made for him. There's a little bit of a scuffle with the other Mandalorians, kind of calling them sitting with traitors. You're sitting with the Imperials that took our Beskar from us in the Great Purge. And the kind of things calm down. And of course, we go into the making the armor part. We get more of a flashback of him looking back at what appears to be his parents and him in the Clone Wars where he was left.
Yeah. So it's really cool seeing these flashbacks.
Yeah.
And I think as these episodes progress, and maybe when he continues to upgrade his armor, we're going to see, more flashbacks that kind of tell us the full story of his backstory. And so we got a little bit more. I think initially all we saw in that first episode was where he, was kind of running with his parents, presumably. The droids were chasing them. But this time we actually see that, sadly the droids killed his parents, it seems like.
Yeah.
And they aim their weapons at him, so we don't know what's going to happen next.
Yeah, it's something we have yet to see, but it's a nice setup, nice little look back into what's inside the Mandalorian's head.
Yeah, exactly. So as this episode progresses, from there, he goes back. He's obviously has a change of heart. He's going to take off from the planet, but then he puts his ship down, goes back for the child. He kind of breaks through that little base or whatever you want to call it, where the Imperials are at, and pretty epic gunfight ensues.
Yeah, I love this part. This, if this in the series up to this point, this was what really was my favorite part so far. And I really got some vibes from I don't know if you ever played Metal Gear Solid back in the 90s on PlayStation.
No.
It was kind of like that. It was the creeping around in the dark, almost like in the game where you use the night vision and you sneak up and snap the guy's necks from behind. That's kind of what the Mandalorian was doing. A little throwback. I got 90s video game vibes from it. It was really cool.
Yeah, it was almost a little bit Batman-esque as well.
Yeah, that too, definitely. Lurking in the shadows and you don't know where he is. Definitely Batman. That's cool.
Yeah, and we get to see a little bit more of his weaponry. I mean, we've seen things already like the flamethrower, but now we get to see, he's also got this rope that launches out of his gauntlet, kind of like what Boba Fett had in Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
And we see how he uses it in a couple instances. He uses it during this scene to grab one of the troopers, which I don't know why he did that instead of just shoot him. I mean,
I think it just looked so cool. I think that's why I did it.
And then at the end, he uses it again. We'll talk about that. But this was great. I really liked. I think this was really well choreographed. And when he goes back and finds Baby Yoda, just the way that he gets him back, and it's another Batman type moment because he's there 1 second, and then the scientist is like, oh, he's gone.
Yeah. I didn't even think of that. That is so cool. I know you love Batman so much. I like Batman a lot, and I didn't get that, but that's cool.
Yeah. So, he tries to take off. Unfortunately for Mandalorian, now there's a bounty on his head because of all he's doing.
Yeah, he walks out of there after he takes care of all the Imperial business, and you start to see all the fobs lighting up. And I guess he knew this, that every other bounty hunter on the whole planet has a fob on the baby now, and he's become the hunted. The hunter becomes the hunted now. Yeah,
exactly. So we're seeing the tables turn, and this is something that's kind of different for him. So the hunter becomes the hunted, and it goes back to something they say earlier in in the scene, isn't it? I think in this episode where they talk about when he's with the other Mandalorians, they talk about this life, this path,
Yeah, the hunter and the prey, right? Yeah,
exactly. So yeah, and then this is another epic scene because you see all these bounty hunters come out. I think there's a Zabrak in there, and
yeah, I did notice that. Yeah,
and all these aliens, cool. And yeah, this is a great scene as well because obviously they're all chasing him, and we kind of got to see him react pretty quickly. He's trying to kind of just sneak by, which is pretty funny, I think, because he assumes at this point that this is what's going to happen, but he's just like, he's not really like going around corners or hiding. He's just kind of like walking through the main thoroughfare of this town.
Yeah.
And that's when he's kind of ambushed on all sides by all these bounty hunters.
Yeah, it's he's trying to shoot his way out like an Old West shootout here, and a couple of times you think they've got him. He escapes in the cart again, then the cart crashes, and they have him again, and it kind of looks like he's done for. And he looks to Baby Yoda, and again with that great music, it kind of sounds like a variation of Yoda's theme plays, and right when that happens, when you expect maybe Baby Yoda's going to help him out again, we see all the Mandalorians come flying up with their jetpacks in the sky to help him.
Yeah, this was an epic moment because it's like something totally out of like Clone Wars, or
yes,
with all the Mandalorians, and it's the kind of thing that it's totally fan service because not only for that reason, like the Clone Wars tie-in, but also because just seeing all these Mandalorians, like, flying on their jetpacks, it's never anything that we've really, I don't think many of us really ever imagined we would see something like this in live action. And
it looks so beautiful.
Yeah, it does. It's awesome. Like, every moment of it, just seeing them, with their unique weapons and their unique armor and, all these different things they're doing is really rad.
Yeah. So then with the help of all the other Mandalorians, he eventually makes his way back to the Razor Crest, and Greef Karga is actually on the ship waiting for him to... he uses the freezing chamber, I guess, to distract him, and he shoots him and blasts him off the ship. And we see that Greef Karga is saved by the Beskar that he had from payment in his jacket. That's where the blaster shot goes.
Uh-huh. Yeah. And so that's also when he uses that rope-like weapon again to kind of, make the steam or whatever that was. Was that maybe like the carbon freezing area?
I think that's what it was. That's what I took it as. It was the carbon freezing, I guess, that he used to distract him.
The gas, the carbon gas or whatever. Yeah, but that was pretty cool. I guess at this point, Mandalorian assumes that he's dead, and but they're still after him, obviously, as we learn in future episodes. But yeah, this is great. So he takes off with the child, and it basically ends like if you went into this episode thinking there's no way the Mandalorian's going to do it, but then he does it. But then he doesn't do it. He goes back and kind of makes up for it. So I guess the sin was the Mandalorian taking the child to collect his bounty, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I took it as maybe the sin was that he broke the code. But it's really cool in the way he gets everything. He gets the payment, he gets his armor, and he gets the child, and he gets out. It's really cool.
Yeah. That's a good point. Definitely open to interpretation. That's one of the cool things about it is, yeah. So going into episode 4, the title of this one was Sanctuary.
Yeah, this is directed by Bryce Dallas Howard, another female director in the Star Wars universe is always great to have. And I know you and me are both big Jurassic Park fans, and it's nice to see some Jurassic and Star Wars intermingling.
Absolutely. Now, this episode is a little bit different in its overall feel. Just the way it was constructed and designed, it just has a little bit of a different vibe to it. But that's cool. I like everything in the different episodes, and I think each of them is a little bit unique. So, just seeing different aspects of the Mandalorian's personality and, these adventures, I think is really, really neat to see. So they want to make some of them a little bit different, then I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, definitely.
So this episode begins with Mandalorian landing on this planet. So there's a name for the planet, or is it the name for the settlement that's there, the town?
Sorgan. Sorgan was the name of the planet. Yeah, so they open up on the planet Sorgan. We see a peaceful fishing village that becomes raided by Klatooinians. And that's kind of what we see, the village being pillaged. And then the next scene we see the Razor Crest actually flying over the village and landing on the other side of the planet.
Yeah. So, it was a pretty cool moment because, you're seeing like the village and, just seeing him fly overhead. But the scene with the village kind of ties into what happened at the very beginning, right? When we see the villagers kind of getting pillaged by the Clatunians.
Yeah, they're out there fishing nice and peacefully, and the next thing you know, village is being raided, blaster fire everywhere, and we see a nice peaceful scene turn into utter chaos.
Yeah, those Clatunians, like we glimpsed them in Return of the Jedi, right? There's some of them on the skiff and in Jabba's palace, but they're actually kind of creepy looking.
Yeah, definitely.
They're capable of some pretty bad stuff, so it's interesting to see, kind of like in that very first episode when, you see some of those classic aliens, like it's like, oh, that guy's actually a little scarier than I thought he was. Yeah, so, that's what happens. They raid the village. We have the Mandalorian, he's coming. He lands somewhere on the outskirts of the settlement. I suppose he just doesn't want to be detected. He kind of wants to be a little hidden.
Flying under the radar, he just kind of moseys into the town there, tries to leave Baby Yoda on the ship, and of course Baby Yoda never listens and just follows him into a cafe. Yeah,
so this was a cool moment because I really liked all the interacting that was going on when they went into this little, cafe restaurant. Just the bartender or the waitress coming over and talking to him, and just the way it was like shot and handled, and all the interaction I thought was really nicely done.
Yeah, it was really awesome to see a Loth cat actually in live action, hissing at
my husband didn't know what that was because he's not hardcore Star Wars by any means, but because we watch it together, and I saw that. It's like, you just see little things like that. And it's pretty awesome.
I know, yeah. Again, with seeing stuff from the animated world now in live action, it's really cool.
That's super cool. This is where we get our first introduction to Cara Dune.
Yeah, this is Gina Carano playing Cara Dune, and right in the cafe, Mandalorian takes an interest in her sitting in the corner. He sees her eyeing him, she eyeing her back. And he kind of asks the waitress what's up with her. She really doesn't know. And by the time the Mandalorian decides to check out what's going on, she has left the cafe and he follows her outside to look for her.
Yeah, and then, we get another glimpse at one of his the weapons in his arsenal. So he presses something on his gauntlet and it activates some sort of, like vision in his visor where we can kind of see where footprints are left. And so he begins following them. And he comes to a dead end, and that's kind of when she attacks him.
Yep, and they have a big street brawl fighting. As you can see, Cara Dune can most definitely hold her own. She's actually looked like she's winning against the Mandalorian. And, as they're rolling around, they come both pulling their blasters, pointing at each other's head, and we hear slurping of someone drinking something. Camera looks over, and Baby Yoda is just casually drinking and watching them fight in the street.
Yeah, such a great
really
moment.
Funny.
And, no, this was a great fight. It was also really well choreographed, and it's interesting too because up to this point we haven't really seen Mandalorian come up against anyone that is essentially his equal in terms of hand-to-hand combat, but they're basically on the same level.
Definitely. I kind of took that she was maybe even a little bit better at hand-to-hand than him. He was kind of trying to rely on his weapons.
Yeah,
his
exactly.
Flamethrower out. Yeah.
Exactly.
She punched him pretty hard in the helmet, and he went head first into the ground.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. So that was really cool. After this, they kind of go back to camp, and we kind of back to the restaurant, and we kind of, we kind of get a little bit of information on her background, and they kind of bond, I guess, a little bit over, realizing that they're both kind of being hunted, but they're not after each other, so much to their relief.
Yeah, so I guess from after their conversation, they kind of part ways, and Mandalorian decides that he has to leave the planet. It's basically not big enough for the two of them. And in the next scene, we see some villagers actually in darkness are tracking him down, and they have gathered some money together, and they want to try and hire the Mandalorian to protect their fishing village.
Right.
And
Yeah, and he's not having it. He's like, you guys don't have enough money. This isn't going to work out. But ultimately, he agrees to do it. So he, he goes with them. He realizes they're going to have, shelter. But the first thing he does is, we see that, Mandalorian definitely has a heart. So not only does he want the help, but he also, remembers Cara Dune. So he goes back to her and asks for her help.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he takes the money, pays her, and hires her to come back to the village with him and the baby. And they get on the back of the cart and ride back to Isolation, hopefully.
Yeah, so we get a little bit more of an insight at this point into the village. So we see the villagers. We had already seen, how they work, but now we get to see how they live. We see the insides of the barn, I guess, where Mandalorian is staying. And their interactions with him. They're obviously, a peaceful people. They don't have really any weapons. And, they're just kind of relying on, their trade of harvesting these, what are they, like krill or shrimp?
Yeah, they're krill, and then they make the spatcha. Is that what that's called? That beer or whatever they drink.
Yeah, that's a beverage they need to have in Galaxy's Edge.
Yeah.
That sounds interesting. Spatchka. Yeah, so what happens next?
Well, I guess he talks with Julia Jones' character, Mira. She inquires about his past being the Mandalorian, talks to him about has he ever removed his helmet. He explains he never removes it in front of people, not since he was a child. Her daughter actually comes in and plays with Baby Yoda, and we see she brings him some food later, and he takes off his helmet and watches everyone playing outside in the safety of his own quarters there.
Yeah, that was interesting too, because, obviously up to this point we haven't seen him remove the helmet. But we realize, in this scene that he never removes it, around other people. Mm-hmm. But he does remove it. It's only when nobody's around, and we actually see him do it. But, we don't, at this point anyway, get to see what he actually looks like under the helmet.
Yeah. I'm really interested to see, again, what has changed with the Mandalorians now, where we are here post Return of the Jedi. Because, watching Clone Wars, watching Rebels, they take off their helmets all the time. So what's up with that now?
Yeah, exactly. It's really weird. I was wondering about that too as I was watching it and as I was rewatching it. Because, you think back to like Pre Vizsla and, he's walking around just holding the helmet and, with the darksaber in hand. And, yeah, and in Rebels, like you said, Sabine, I think she has the helmet off more often than she has it on. And even, when we go back to her planet and see her family, they're not usually wearing the helmets most of the time. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I wonder if that's going to be explained. Obviously, Dave Filoni has a huge hand on, what's going on here. So, hopefully that is explained, because I do feel there's a little bit of a disconnect between, those two dynamics, between the animation and between Mandalorian.
Yeah. I guess as we move on then into the episode, the next scene we see Cara Dune and the Mandalorian are out in the woods, kind of tracking, seeing where the raiders, the Klatooinians, have gone, and they stumble across ATST prints in the ground, and they're not happy when they see that. Yeah, and
this isn't something that had really dawned on me as I was watching it, but afterwards, seeing people on Twitter talk about how, Jurassic Park, these moments were.
Oh, yeah.
It dawned on me at that point, yeah, totally. And, rewatching it, I definitely, saw that. And, yeah, just the way that they framed that shot of them investigating the track of the ATST, just the camera kind of rises and, very Jurassic Park-esque. And then, just kind of looking around and all the damage around the trees, it's definitely something you would see in one of those films.
I don't know if that's something that Bryce brought, from being in the two Jurassic World movies, but yeah, I kind of picked that up right away. There's some shots in it at the end that it definitely reminds me of Jurassic Park or Lost World and stuff. It's really cool.
Yeah, totally.
So next, we see them go back to the village, and they're just basically having none of this ATST that they just found. They're kind of angry that the villagers didn't mention it to them beforehand. They thought this was just going to be like a little, fire some blasters and these little raiders will just back off. And they tell the villagers that they got to leave, and they're not happy with that. They're not leaving their fishing village that they've been there for generations. So the Mandalorian suggests maybe we can train them, and we enter a training montage where they're training the villagers to fight back.
Yeah, this is pretty cool because, it just kind of shows us a different thing than we've seen in live action. You probably recall in Clone Wars, there was an episode where Obi-Wan and Anakin are training this village, and I forgot what the name of the species was, but, these little rodent-like creatures. They teach them how to fight. And it kind of reminded me a little bit of that, just seeing that in Star Wars. But yeah, it's kind of what they do. They show them like the basics of like hand-to-hand combat and, fighting with blasters. And so this is different. They're actually trying to prepare them to defend themselves, presumably after, even after they're gone, if they get attacked again by, somebody else.
Yeah, Mandalorian has some blasters, and it turns out that Omera can actually shoot wherever she's come from. She knows how to handle herself in a blaster pretty well, and they hatch a plan that they're going to dig a hole near their fishing pond for the walker to be drawn back into and hopefully fall into. And next we see the Mandalorian and Cara Dune go out under the cover of nightfall to try and coax the raiders and the walker back towards their village.
Yeah, no, this is interesting too. I really like seeing, these fight scenes like in here. Because, they go to I guess wherever these Klatooinians are based, they have a camp somewhere in the woods. And, they kind of infiltrate it. And like you said, this is all like a ploy to kind of draw them out and get them to go back to the village so that they can, take on the ATST. But it's really cool seeing like, again, like the combat and the weaponry and all that like brought in because, I don't know. It's like anytime in Mandalorian when we get to see like fighting, it's like it's all done so well.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool. In the saga films, we've usually followed around Jedi and Sith and their like fighting style. And we're seeing a lot of hand-to-hand combat in The Mandalorian, blaster to blaster. And it's different and it's choreographed differently. It's really cool to see.
It's totally cool to see. So they succeed. The ATST is drawn out from the woods, and it's pretty scary, right? Like compared to what we saw in Return of the Jedi.
This is really where I get the Jurassic Park vibes. I was watching it on a new TV that I got, and it was really, really dark and hard to see, but all I could see was the red cockpit lights come up over the trees, and the way it's shot from the ground, it looks like a dinosaur standing up and chasing them through the woods or something. It's really cool.
Yeah, it's definitely, you feel like, when you see like in Jurassic World, like or Jurassic Park, the T-Rex like running, chasing somebody like from ground level, you definitely get that feeling, there's this big like, beast essentially that's on foot and chasing you. And that was really well handled. And that's totally got to be deliberate the way they did that.
Yeah, this part was so cool. And again, with the music, I'm digging the music more and more every episode. And there was some throwback in there. It reminded me of the first Terminator film, real like techno sounding, and the way they're running it reminds me of the end of the film when Sarah Connor is running away from Terminator.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. So they lure the ATST back to camp, but I guess whoever's in the cockpit of it, they're kind of figuring things out. And it's funny because they really give the ATST a lot of personality, and it's kind of like looking around and it's kind of scoping out the area to see what's going on. But, us, the viewers, we know that there's drivers in there, and I did think about that. Like, if you're a casual viewer that hasn't seen Return of the Jedi in a long time, do you necessarily know that there's not? Yeah, that's true. So
I guess not. You might not.
Yeah. Well, I guess later, when they do throw the detonator in there, you hear screams. So maybe that's supposed to cue you into, there's people in there. But it's really well handled the way, again, that they did this. Because you see all the Klatooinians come back, or, a bunch of them. They swamp the town. What I want to know, Dave, is if they had an ATST the whole time, why didn't they just obliterate the village like the first time and, take everything?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they're just looking for an easy score every now and then. They don't want to bite the hand that feeds them or whatever.
Yeah, that's true because obviously, like they mentioned in this episode, there's actually a harvest for this krill. And yeah, I guess, the Klatooinians probably don't know how to harvest them. So, yeah, that's probably what's going on.
Yeah. And then, so as the walker's drawn into the village and we see that it's not working, so Cara Dune actually takes the Mandalorian's rifle and takes it upon herself, and she dives into the pond, try to lure it even closer. And eventually, she's shooting into the cockpit, and it does come close enough and fall in, and we see Mandalorian throw a thermal detonator into the cockpit, it blows up. And that's basically the Klatooinians see that their walker's defeated, and they go running back into the woods, and they've won.
Yeah, no, that was really cool to see. And, I kind of felt like the episode was going to end right there, but it didn't end right there. It actually kept going, didn't it?
Yeah. We see a few weeks have gone by. The next scene we see where the Mandalorian is kind of standing around talking to Cara Dune. She asks him some questions about what happens if you take off your helmet, and he says you can't ever put it back on. She kind of says that's ridiculous. You could settle down and have a nice life here with your baby and your woman. And next we see he's gonna decides that he wants to leave the baby Yoda on the planet, and that he's gonna leave it, and he's gonna have a nice childhood.
You really feel for the guy, because at this point, he's, you get the sense that that idea appeals to him, and he's actually thinking about it. But then, he I guess he realizes he can. I guess maybe he can get the child to be safe there, but maybe he thinks that as long as he's around, that he's maybe it kind of hurts the child's chances of growing up.
Yeah, I think he says something to the point that, there's no life for the child with him. I don't think he sees himself settling down, but he says, I've done my part. The child will be happy here. He walks over to say goodbye. We see Amara talking to him, trying to get him to stay. It looks like she's about to take his helmet off when we suddenly start to see a bounty hunter coming through the woods. Yeah,
so this bounty hunter, was it like... I couldn't really figure out what species it was, or what kind of bounty. Did you get any in your research any information on who this was?
Didn't do any research into what that was now, but I'm not the greatest with what all the different species and aliens are.
Yeah, it kind of looked like, the little glimpse we got of it. It kind of looked like Garandan, that same species, like Kubas or whatever they're called, that same species that we saw in the first episode. But yeah, not certain though.
No, and then we see he's looking through his scope on his rifle. He sees the Mandalorian, then he starts to target the baby Yoda, and we hear a big blaster bolt firing, and that scares everyone away. And we see the bounty hunter drop, and Cara Dune saves the day and takes out the bounty hunter before any harm can be done.
Yeah, this moment kind of made me jump, because when you see that bounty hunter get baby Yoda in his scope, and then you hear the gunshot, we don't see immediately what happened. So
yeah,
I wasn't completely fearful that they actually killed him off, but
yeah, they do a good job. I mean, you see that the story's got to go in a certain way, but they're not going to kill baby Yoda, but you jump and you're like, oh, what did this happen? You're invested in the story. It's good.
Yeah, they do a really good job at just the way it's handled. But to everybody's delight, Cara Dune took out the bounty hunter. Baby Yoda is safe, but unfortunately, they realize also that they know baby Yoda's there. The bounty hunters are going to keep coming, and they just can't stay there. So when all is said and done, Mandalorian and baby Yoda say their goodbyes. Cara Dune goes her own way, and it's right back, presumably into space, and onto the next planet.
Yep, that's where we leave. Everyone parts ways, and Cara Dune says, till I see you next time, and that's the end of the episode.
All right, so the next episode, The Gunslinger.
Yeah, this is Chapter 5, The Gunslinger, and this one was directed second go-around here for Dave Filoni.
Yeah, so it's really cool to see Dave Filoni do another episode, because he did the inaugural episode, which arguably that I would think that probably have the most pressure out of any of the directors.
Yeah.
To really get things right.
Getting off the ground. It was his live action debut, and he did a good job, and they got him here for a second one, and this one's another really good one too.
Yeah, this is another really good one. This one is also, we talked about how, the previous episode, Sanctuary, was a little bit different. This one too is a little bit different. But again, I think that's a really good thing, how they're mixing it up, and we're kind of getting a little bit more insight. We never really learn, why the Mandalorian is going to Tatooine. It's obviously, he's going to Tatooine because, we as fans know Tatooine and are excited to see it, but he never really says why he's going there. Our introduction to this episode is that he's being pursued by this other, pilot or bounty hunter.
Yeah, we see a space battle in the beginning, and Mandalorian pulls some cool moves to blast him out of the sky. I'm not sure if he was heading towards Tatooine or not, but that's where he ended up, and I know I'm watching it there, and I right away when they showed it, I almost jumped out of the couch, and I'm like, yes, and my wife's like, what? And I'm like, that's Tatooine, you know?
Yeah, so an interesting thing is, we see like the same exact like angle that we see at the very beginning of A New Hope, where the Rebel blockade runners coming in, and the moons are in the same exact positions.
Yeah.
Which seems unlikely, but we'll take it. It really cues us into, hey, this is Tatooine. And then he gets a little intercom transmission in his ship, and it says, oh, you're cleared here from Mos Eisley to land in whatever docking bay is, like 30 something.
Yeah, docking bay 35.
So
yeah, that's cool.
yeah, that's a cool little nod. So we know he's going to be kind of in the vicinity, where we saw everything go down in the original film. But yeah, as the ship flies in, it's also interesting because they reuse that. Like, it seems like they're the exact same shots of like the rocks and like the approach to Mos Eisley, where you see the spaceport from the cliff where Ben Kenobi and Luke are overlooking it. And what's interesting is like even the shadows on the rocks are like identical, so that they just reuse those same shots.
Yeah. It's cool, and I guess like you're saying, they want us, the viewer, to just be super familiar. This is a place we've been before, and we're going to see it the same way we saw it, 40-something years ago.
Yep.
And I'm not sure how they did it, if it's like composite or something, where they overlay some of the original shot. It's different, but it is so close. It's awesome.
Exactly. Yeah, it's really cool to see the way they did that. I mean, just kind of, it harkening back to that original film. And, even if they reuse stuff and, it's just the fact that, we're seeing these same places that we haven't seen in, 42 years, essentially is really cool. I really like the whole way that they went about it.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. And then he ends up landing in the docking bay there. His ship is all battered up from the space fight we just got through. And we're introduced to a character, Peli Motto, played by Amy Sedaris of Strangers with Candy. She's probably most famous for.
Yeah,
She's worked with Filoni. She was in Elf. But she does a good job. He lands, and the way right away when she starts talking to him, I got vibes of she's a bad car mechanic. It's like where they're, oh, this is going to cost you double. Oh, this is going to be an add-on, and I really like the way she portrayed that. Again, I almost jumped off my couch seeing the pit droids in there. I was like, yes, call back to episode 1. It was cool.
Yeah, that was really cool. I like seeing, when there's tie-ins to all of Star Wars, and we've talked about how there's several to the animation and, to the original trilogy. There haven't been a ton to the prequel trilogy at this point. There's been a few, like the super battle droids and, now the pit droids. And I think, just having those little touches. I mean, this really makes sense because, if there are going to be any droids working on in the docking bay there on Mos Eisley, you assume it's going to be these pit droids. So, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe they were everywhere except for where Han and Chewie were, because we really only saw that one bay with them in New Hope. But
yeah,
I'll take it. I'll take the fan service. I liked it.
Yeah, no, it was great. And, there's a really cute moment, like when, what's her name? The mechanic.
Peli Motto.
Okay, so when she asks the pit droids, like, what do you guys think? Should we, repair it? Like, there's 3 droids and each one gives a different response. Like, one shrugs his shoulders, the other one shakes his head yes, the other one shakes his head no. So that's pretty great. I caught that on the rewatch.
Yeah, it's not little things like that. It's cool.
Yeah, really good stuff.
So in the next scene, we're seeing Baby Yoda, after the Mandalorian leaves to go get more credits to pay for all the work he's going to need. We see Baby Yoda coming down the back of the ship, and she interrupts their game. He interrupts the game of sabacc that they're playing, and we see that Peli is going to take care of the Baby Yoda for more money.
Yeah, this is cool. It's interesting too because we've seen it a couple times now where Mandalorian kind of just leaves Baby Yoda on the ship, and he kind of walks out on his own. It's like, well, why doesn't he just close the door?
Yeah, I guess this whole episode is kind of, every episode is just a little bit he learns, and I guess he's going to learn to be a better father, better caretaker, I guess, in this one, because he's not doing such a good job when this episode starts out.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the next scene that we see the Mandalorian walking down the streets of Mos Eisley, and of course, where does he end up? The famous Cantina, where your podcast takes its name from, and we're back, and it's really cool walking into the Mos Eisley Cantina. It's cool when he walks in. We actually see there are droids running the show now. As in A New Hope, there were famously no droids allowed in.
Yeah. This is a really interesting thing because, like you said, no droids. You're not welcome here. They'll have to stay outside. It's you go in there and you see a couple of droids. So you have like EV-99 is the droid that we see in Return of the Jedi. This is the same droid that we see in their, same model. This one's at the bartending. And then we also see like an R5 just kind of rolling around. The cantina is also really, like desolate. Like there's not a whole lot going on in there. And I don't know if it's the time of day or if it's, just maybe falling on hard times. And that's why the droids took over. But there's not a lot of action like there was in that original film.
I don't know if it has something to do with being post-Empire, post-like Hutt rule, but the whole street looks more dead. Everything looks more dead on Tatooine. Maybe it's just not the place for scum and villainy anymore, now that there's no Empire, no Jabba the Hutt.
No, that's a really good point. Because we do hear that, from different characters, the Empire is gone, but you don't get the sense that things are great. At least when you hear like, in the earlier episodes, you hear Mandalorian, chatting and, with other people, and you kind of get the sense that, the Empire's gone, but the credits are still worth some money, but not a lot.
Yeah.
But the Empire, the New Republic isn't really, doing all that much. So, it's interesting. And, that's a really good point. It could totally be why, Tatooine seems, a little bit more desolate than it, has been in the previous films.
Yeah, so when Mandalorian walks into the cantina, he mentions to the droid that he's looking for some bounty work. Droid kind of says, like, sorry, you're out of luck. No guild here anymore. And we, out of the shadows, actually, we meet a new character, Toro Callahan. And he's kind of sitting there in the same spot where we see Han Solo in A New Hope, and he kind of offers up. He's like, yo, I've got a bounty puck here. See what I've got here.
Yeah, what's interesting about that is if you look behind where Mandalorian is sitting, you see like a blast shot on the wall, like a score mark. Mm-hmm. So presumably, or, I don't know if the shot went through Greedo, but I was thinking maybe that's kind of a result of that. But you don't see one behind where, this other guy is sitting, but you do see something like some pipes or something on the walls. Maybe they were just trying to obscure it or leave it open to interpretation as to whether or not that mark was back there. I don't really know.
I don't know. We need some clarification as to who shot first.
Yeah, it just seems like they didn't want to touch that, so they put some decoration or something like, above the booth to kind of obscure that part of the wall. But yeah, it's awesome to be back in the cantina, somewhere we haven't been since that original film. It looks, really well recreated. And like you said, that's, that scene, my favorite scene in all of Star Wars, and that's exactly where my channel got its name from. So, and the podcast got its name from. So, I totally dug that.
Yeah. So, Toro reveals that he wants to go after Fennec Shand as the bounty, and the Mandalorian kind of brushes him off. He goes, you obviously haven't been with Guild for very long, because if you go after her, she's an elite mercenary and you're going to die, basically. Then Toro offers up, hey, I'll pay you the entire bounty. I just need this to get into the Guild. You come with me and you'll have all the money. Mandalorian agrees, tells him to meet him back at the hangar with 2 speeders, and we make our way back to the hangar.
Yeah, so, we kind of, it's a little bit weird because, we don't really know, like, I kind of felt like Toro maybe had different motivations that he just wasn't revealing at that point. But, it was very entirely possible he just wanted to get into the Guild, so he's taking advantage of Mandalorian to do that. But, I don't know, I just kind of feel like with this aspect of Star Wars, you're kind of dealing with shady characters, and you don't really always know what their motivations are.
He kind of struck me as like a wannabe Han Solo. He looks like almost like a rich kid or something. He's dressed nicer than you see other bounty hunters and stuff. It seems like he always has credits on him to get whatever he wants. Gets the speeders, gets the binocs. and he just kind of seems like a slimy version of Han Solo or something, not with a golden heart or anything.
Yeah. So, once again, Mandalorian agrees to help him out, which I think is kind of similar to the last episode because, you kind of see sort of the same thing. It's like, it almost feels like an RPG or something. Like he's like, okay, yeah, sure, I'll help you out,
Yeah.
So that's what he does. And is this where he lets him know that he needs to get, a couple speeders?
Yep, he lets him know he needs a couple speeders right before he leaves the cantina and tells him in a half hour to meet him back at the hangar.
At this point, we see Mandalorian leaves Baby Yoda with the attendant from the hangar. And we also see that, Toro gets a little glimpse of the baby, and he's just kind of like, his reaction is kind of like, oh, that's weird.
Yeah, definitely. Then they hop on the speeders and they make their way across the dunes, and it's a really cool shot. It looks so much better than we've ever seen speeder riding in Star Wars. It's a lot better than what we see in Return of the Jedi. It's better than what we see in Attack of the Clones. It's in bright daylight. It looks really awesome.
It does. It looks really convincing and realistic. Like, just how far, the ability to create that, has come. And I remember while watching that telling my husband, like, man, I wish those were real because I would love to do that.
I know. It's like a childhood dream for me, seeing the original trilogy when I was a kid. And that was the one thing I just wanted to do so bad was just ride a speeder through the forest. And every time I see it, it's like a hover motorcycle. It just looks so cool.
We got to get that hovering technology.
Yeah. Come on.
Yeah. So, they're on their way. They're in pursuit. They're kind of looking out with the binoculars. And then we get a moment that's quite reminiscent of what happens in A New Hope, don't we?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They stop. They see some Tusken Raiders in the distance. And Toro kind of like brushes it off like, they better not mess with us. And Mandalorian says, well, why don't you tell them that yourself? And the camera pans to the left and we see a couple Tusken Raiders are just kind of standing there watching them.
Yeah. And that's a really interesting thing because when you think of these Tusken Raiders, you typically think of them pouncing like instantly, but these two weren't doing that. They were just kind of watching. And, we've never seen like communication with the Tusken Raiders. It's always, like a fight or, like Anakin slaughtering them or, them attacking Luke and, just what we know from the brief moments, like Ben Kenobi saying, they're easily frightened. They'll come back in greater numbers. But we actually see them being communicated with through gesturing and hand signals. And I thought that was a pretty fascinating way to approach, like actually communicating with Tusken Raiders.
Yeah, I think, Sanctuary and this episode, Gunslinger, they kind of feel like maybe side stories, or some people have called them filler, which I don't really agree with. But in this part here, we're seeing that the Mandalorian is actually learning. When he first interacted with the Jawas, he wanted to beat him up, chase him down, pull him off their sandcrawler. But here we see him calm and collected, and he starts to communicate with them and talk with them just like Quill taught him to speak with the Jawa, and he enacts a trades the binocs for safe passage through the dunes.
Yeah, so that was pretty interesting dynamic because, like I said, we've never really seen like interaction with them like on a civil level. So seeing that they can actually be bartered with, I thought was really interesting. Yeah,
definitely adds a new dynamic to the character that is so old as Star Wars.
Yeah, it does. It totally does. So then they continue on, on their pursuit, and finally they come upon.
They come across a dewback in this sand, and it's pulling what appears to be a dead person being drugged by them, and it kind of looks like maybe it's a trap set by the sniper there.
They decided to take up a close look, and I think Mando's like, "Oh, be careful, because we don't know what this is." But then, that's when the blaster bolts come firing at them, isn't it?
Yeah, Fennec is actually poised on the high ground, like the Mandalorian says later on, and she's trying to snipe him, but he's got the Beskar armor on, and it protects him. And then there's a little funny exchange there. where he says to Toro, I'm okay. It was far enough away that the Beskar are held. And he goes, oh, I'm not wearing any Beskar. And he's like, right.
Yeah, that was good. But also, I love that line of, oh, she has the high ground, because, you think back to Revenge of the Sith. So
yep.
I do wonder if it probably was deliberate, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, the Mandalorian gets it, Anakin. You need to understand Anakin. They have the high ground. So the Mandalorian basically says, because she has the high ground, we'll have to wait till nightfall so that we can mount our attack. He comes up with this plan to, using the cover of night, they're going to get on the speeder bikes and ride as fast as they can towards Fennec, and he has these flash charges to disrupt her sniper scope.
Yeah, this is something that was kind of different too, because we haven't seen this before. And I started thinking about it like, we haven't, why haven't we seen this before? And when you think about it, we really haven't gotten a whole lot of, like in the films at least, like at nighttime sort of like battles, like usually when we see fights and stuff during Clone War, like, the Clone Wars era in the films anyway, stuff is usually going on like, during the daytime. So it kind of made me wonder if this whole blasting thing to blind the scope is also possible during the day, or if it's only like a night type thing.
Yeah, I don't know. This is why I'm loving this TV series format, because we have time now to explore these little things that we've been talking about in this whole episode. We're not constrained into the 2 hours, which if this was a movie, it would be over by now. But this is great that we're getting all these little details and expanding on things and talking about it.
Yeah, no, that's an excellent point. And they're also elaborating on things that we haven't really. Things that you just see in the background or in passing in the films, they're expanding on them a little bit more. And I think that's one of the great things. And that's one of the things that makes me really excited for the Obi-Wan spinoff as well.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, like I've always been, I guess I prefer following the Jedi around to maybe just a regular person or whatever. But I'm super excited to dive deep into Obi-Wan and the Jedi and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, especially if it's just kind of like what Mandalorian's doing, and you noted it last time, everything's from his point of view. Everything is like what he's experiencing, like for the most part. If they do that as well with Obi-Wan, I think it's going to be pretty great.
Yeah, I'm not going to be able to contain my excitement once that isn't.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. So at this point, where do we leave off? They were able to use those little explosives.
Yeah, they're riding in, and I guess she's able to look through the scope just long enough to shoot Mandalorian off of the speeder bike, and it looks like he's about to be shot underneath the helmet, and Toro actually comes up from behind and saves the Mandalorian. Fennec and Toro start fighting. She's able to disarm Toro, toss his blaster behind him, and as time has gone on, now we see the Mandalorian is there to save Toro, and they're able to take Fennec into custody.
Yeah, and you see where Mandalorian was totally right about Toro not having a chance, because she disarms him like right away. Yeah. I mean, this is like, it's that kind of thing where, you have somebody that's a novice, and he kind of like, oh, I did it, but then it's like, no, you didn't.
Yeah, definitely. Just with the character, he's just totally inexperienced, way cocky, and a lot of times he's getting put in his place by everyone.
Yep. Trying to remember what happens next.
So next they have to deal with the problem of the broke up speeder. And Mandalorian hatches the plan. They're like, hey, let's go back and get that dewback, and he tries to send Toro, and Toro's like, no way, I'm not leaving you here with my ride and my bounty. Mandalorian is going to be the one to go get the dewback. So Toro and Fennec are left there to talk to each other in what presumes to be the few hours it takes Mandalorian to walk over to the dewback, and as we see, that doesn't turn out so well.
Okay, yeah, so this is where she's trying to make like the barter with Toro, right? Like say, hey, if you let me go,
Yeah, she starts talking with Toro and basically is like, hey, let me go. I can still make it to my rendezvous point. I can pay you double the bounty that you would get for taking me in. He's basically like, I'm not about the money. And she kind of sees that, and she starts manipulating him, like, maybe you want to be legendary, and explains to him where she heard what happened to the Mandalorian, what he did on Navarro. And you can see the gears starting to turn in Toro's head, and he's like, yeah, that's it. I'm going to go after the Mandalorian. She thinks Toro is going to free her, and they're going to go get the Mandalorian together, and he shoots and kills Fennec.
Yeah. Yeah, no, this I didn't see things going that way. And it's weird because, if Toro didn't have a chance against her, I mean, realistically, how did you think he was going to have a chance against Mandalorian? It's like you said, he's cocky, and all this is, he's a novice. All this is coming into play. He thinks he's going to be able to get the upper hand, maybe because he thinks that they're working together, but in the end, he's just a cocky kid, and things don't really go too well for him.
Yeah. And then next we see, as the sun rises, the Dewback and Mandalorian come back, and he finds Fennec there killed, and he kind of figures out what's going on, and he's got to ride the Dewback all the way back to the hangar to get back to his ship and possibly find Toro, and that takes all day. Again, it's nightfall by the time he gets back to Mos Eisley.
We're back where everything began.
Mandalorian walks in. It's very dark. It's hard to see what's going on. And we see Toro has Peli and Baby Yoda both at blaster point on the back end of the Razor Crest.
Yeah, so he sees that it's repaired. Looks good as new. And, as far as he knows, this is kind of going to be, he's in the clear. Like nothing, is going to happen. But that's when Toro kind of just reveals himself, isn't it?
Yep. He comes down, basically says, I'm going to become legendary. I'm going to take you back to Navarro. I'm going to turn you in, and I'm going to be, with glory, I'm going to be made a full-fledged member of the Bounty Hunters Guild.
The audience, us, we know full well from what we've seen of, Mandalorian previously and, all his armor and everything that this probably isn't going to go very well for Toro.
No, Toro gets the Mandalorian to drop his blaster, and he tells Peli to cuff him. And we, as the audience, are kind of given a little peek behind his helmet, and we see the Mandalorian is holding one of the flash charges. He ignites it, it disorients Toro for a bit, and the Mandalorian is able to get to the side and shoot down Toro.
Yeah, and that's interesting because... Toro also has Baby Yoda in his arm at that point, doesn't he? So we don't really know, did he drop
falls
him?
Over holding Baby Yoda. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but then when the camera comes back and, pans to that direction, we find that, he's just over there hiding in the corner.
Mm-hmm. Pretty scary moment. You expect him to maybe still be holding the baby, and he's not there. They panic, they look around, but everything's okay. Baby Yoda's safe and sound in their arms again.
Yeah, so... I think it's fair to say that Toro's probably dead at this point.
I would say so. They take the credits off of him. He pays for the repairs with Toro's credits. And then there's a little funny moment where she tells the pit droids to get rid of him. And she goes, I don't care where. Take him to Beggar's Canyon.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, another great moment that, you're only going to pick up on if, you're, hardcore Star Wars fan. But yeah, no, that was really great. And, I really liked, Peli, right? I thought she was a great character and, definitely different from what we've seen in these films, but, she was very fitting and, whatever actor they found for that role, I think was perfect. Like she fit in really well.
Yeah, I'm being fooled by these costumes and this makeup. I had no idea that it was Amy Sedaris until after the episode. I just was like, I'm like, this is good. Yeah, I like what she's doing, but who is that?
Yeah, they do a really good job with that. So there's also kind of like, I don't know if it's not really a post-credit scene, but we do see some another moment. Yeah, we do see a moment like after, all this transpires. So what do you think? What is your interpretation of that? What are we led to believe from this last moment?
Well, we see Fennec's presumably dead body still lying there where everyone left it, and we hear some jangling, and we see Boots in a cape come up to her, start to kneel, and when we cut to black, we have no idea who this character is. I'm right on the New Hope on the brain when I'm watching this, and my first thought was, could that be Boba Fett? Did the same thing again. I'm jumping out of my couch going, is that Boba Fett?
Oh man, I didn't even consider that. Like, I thought it might be Mandalorian because, like you said, he's got the spurs, so you hear like the his boots, when he walks, and the cape. But I mean, it would be kind of weird if it doesn't really make like.
I don't think it is now. That was just my in the moment thought.
Yeah.
Plus, if you've read the Aftermath books, someone else has Boba Fett's armor by this point on Tatooine.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't know. Only thing I could think of is maybe this is a foreshadowing to another coming character that we haven't seen yet, Moff Gideon by Giancarlo Espinoto from Breaking Bad fame. Maybe that character is somehow, I don't know. Other than that, I don't really have any other guesses. That's kind of the only thing I thought.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens next. So, obviously we get another episode of Mandalorian this Friday. And, maybe they'll tie that up, or maybe, it'll just go in a different direction for this episode. So, but, whatever they choose to do, I know that, we're at this point, we're just chopping at the bit for the next episode to see, what's going to happen, what's happening next. It's just like, I'm on the edge of my seat with this show. It's like everything about it to me is just really exciting.
Yeah, I'm hoping these final 3 episodes are more of a arc like the first 3 episodes were. I like these last 2 episodes, but they do, like people have said, they're filler, but they're not. They're kind of side missions that grow the characters. But I'm ready to get back to the overarching story of like what's going to happen with this child, the baby, and the Mandalorian.
Yeah, I would venture a guess that, maybe we're going to kind of go that way with the next episode. Because, these last couple have, not been filler, but just they've taken us in different directions. And, I would kind of like to also know, what's going on with the Imperial Remnant and, what happened, after, everything that happened on Navarro. Like, where are those Imperials now? What are they trying to, get Baby Yoda back? Are they trying to, are they still, is the goal still to have him like, maybe killed, which, it seems that's the case, or, the sanctuary. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see, and I hope that we definitely get more of a glimpse, because there's a lot of characters and actors that we know are in this show that we haven't seen yet.
Yeah, my like ultimate fan theory, what I hope that we would go is I'm hoping there's some sort of Mandalorian connection to the Force. Not that the Mandalorians use the Force or anything, but we have that history with like the Black Saber, the first Mandalorian Jedi. We have Sabine Wren, who obviously knew some Jedi in the Galactic Civil War. And I'm hoping maybe, is there going to be maybe a meetup that would just be so cool if he would somehow get this baby to Sabine and maybe Ahsoka or something. We get to see Ahsoka in live action. That's just like, I don't think that'll happen, but that'd be an awesome pipe dream.
Yeah, no, that'd totally be an awesome pipe dream. Yeah, or even like, seeing like a greater time, like you're talking about like things like that we've seen in Clone Wars. Like, what if we actually saw the dark saber, and see what that looks like in live action? That'd be pretty awesome.
Definitely. We've got Filoni here, and he's the one that's in charge of all those stories, and I'm hoping it'll happen. I got my fingers crossed here. In Dave we trust. Yeah,
yeah, it's gonna be great. I'm sure whatever they have. Cooking's gonna be interesting. In any case, we have a couple episodes left. After Friday, we have another next week, and then the final one's gonna be, I think it's the week after, correct? After the Rise of Skywalker comes out.
Yep. Yeah.
All right. So in the last episode that we talked, Mandalorian on, we discussed, a few things we'd like to see made into toy form because, obviously we love toys here, and so thinking about these last 3 episodes, is there anything that stands out to you, Dave, that you're thinking this needs to be a toy?
Let's see. Well, we're getting the ATST right in Vintage Collection.
Yes,
am I correct with that?
Yes, that's out already.
Yeah, that's the first thing, but obviously we're getting it. Just maybe expanding some of these like background characters, like the Bounty Hunters Guild or something.
Yeah, like that Zabrak Bounty Hunter.
Yeah, I saw that and I freeze framed, and I'm watching that. And I'm like, oh, that would look so cool. Which I don't know if some people are saying maybe that's the sad part about the 5 POA going away. We're not getting background characters, but they can do it in the Vintage Collection.
Yeah, they could. They could.
I'd like to see some of the vehicles, like that little cart that the Mandalorian was on, being pulled by one of the astromech droids. Is it? It's cool that added to like the Western feel. It's like the horse pulling the Conestoga wagon or something.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. And what we said last time, the Razor Crest, that would be cool.
Yeah. Yeah, there's plenty of aliens, a few familiar ones, but also, ones that we haven't seen before. And they're really good designs. Like in the Cantina, there was like that frog-looking creature, and then, there was like that I don't know, was it like a termite or something?
Yeah.
But yeah, like those, any of the Mandalorians would be cool to have. You know, any of these background aliens. Yeah, I think they'd all be cool. And you know, one thing that I think makes like the Klatooinians kind of toyetic as well is that it seemed like they were mostly dressed like the same, right? Like they were mostly wearing like the same kind of armor and stuff.
That's definitely something that you could troop build, army build with them.
Right.
Maybe have some paint variants on them or something. You know, like a village play set or something where they're fishing for the krill and stuff. That would be cool. Anything at all to just help to recreate some of these scenes, because every little half-hour episode is just like a mini movie, and you want to make a shelf diorama or something with these figures would be so cool.
Yeah, I want an accessory of the quote-unquote ice cream maker with the credits in it and everything.
Yeah. That would be cool.
I know we have
even
one.
like a
Yeah, we got one
something
with
life size. Yeah.
Well, yeah, life size would be awesome, but like a functioning. We got one with a Railroad Hood figure from a decade ago, but you know, if we were able to get like a functioning one, maybe even like in 6-inch, and you know, it comes apart, and I would love that.
Yeah, anything at all. Just these details are really really well thought out, and it's so much fun.
Yeah, it's all great stuff, and you know, I'm loving The Mandalorian. I know you are too, and. I'm really excited to see where, you know, the series is going, where the season is going. And, you know, I think there's going to be a lot of cool stuff in there, you know, as these final 3 episodes of the season come. And yeah, I'm all into it right now. Like, bring it on, bring us more Baby Yoda, you know, as much as they want to smother us with. I'm totally down for more Baby Yoda.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I wish they would have had more toys on the shelf for the holiday season. We're actually doing a little family Pollyanna, and one of the requests I got from one of my cousin's kids that wants the Mandalorian in the Black series, and I'm just like, I can't find that right now. It's not on the shelf. So, yeah. Yeah,
I mean, you know, those figures are selling pretty quickly. Like, you know, anything based on Mandalorian seems to go pretty quick. Even that off-world Jawa doesn't seem to hang around all that long. Like, you know, like when this line or, you know, that wave like launched, like you would see them every now and then, but like now I'm not even seeing them as much. Yeah,
before the show started streaming, you were seeing even the Cara Dune was kind of just hanging out, and now they're gone. You know, the off-world Jawas, everything that has something to do with the show can't keep it on the shelf. So Hasbro, we need more, please.
We need more like yesterday. And yeah, give us anything Mandalorian, you know, we'll buy it. You know, we want those figures, we want those toys. I mean, I think when you love the content, you know, you're going to want more as much from it as you can get. And, you know, it's no different with, you know, toys. You know, we want, you know, anything that they want to give us, it has the Mandalorian brand on it. I'm all for it. Let's do it. Definitely. I'll give you my money, Hasbro. You're not going to lose out on this deal. All right. So, you know, Dave, it's been a pleasure having you on the show once again. Thanks for talking Mandalorian episodes 3, 4, and 5. Next time I have you on the show, we'll be talking about episodes 7, 8, 9.
All right. I can't wait. I wish it was here already, but, you know, it's what's part of the fun of this series, waiting, I guess. Yeah,
it is. It totally is. So where can our listeners go to find you on social media?
I'm on social media on Instagram and Twitter under Jurassic Dave 93. I also have a YouTube channel, but I hardly ever upload any videos to it, or Jurassic Dave 93. But hit me up on Twitter or Instagram if you want to talk anything Star Wars related or any type of pop culture things that we might be interested in.
Dave, it's been a blast having you on. As always, you're very well spoken. You know, you bring up a lot of good points, and yeah, it's a lot of fun chatting with you. So thanks again for coming on.
Thank you.
If you aren't already, subscribe to the place it all started, the Victoria's Cantina YouTube channel, where I review new toys and showcase retro toys from the past. You can also follow us for news and updates on Facebook by looking up Victoria's Cantina, toy photography on Instagram at Victoria's Cantina, and a constant drip of toy-related and other random and nonsensical tweets on Twitter at Vic's Cantina. If you're so inclined, we are on Patreon. Gain greater access to Victoria's Cantina by becoming a Patreon Cantina patron. For as little as $1 a month, you'll help to keep the show going and also get exclusive content such as access to a private Twitter feed, early access to toy reviews, and behind-the-scenes featurettes. And if you can't, but you still want to help us out, one of the easiest and most helpful things you can do is leave us a review over on Apple Podcasts. It only takes a minute, so hit that 5-star rating and leave a note stating why you enjoy the show. It'll make us more visible on iTunes and help others to find our show. As always, I'm Victoria, and no matter where you're listening out in the galaxy, I'd like to thank you for tuning in to the Cantina Chatter podcast.